Hi guys, please like, share and subscribe. And if you want full course for any actuarial subject, visit theactuarialguy.com or WhatsApp on this number. Thank you.
Hello and welcome guys. In this video, we are discussing chapter number 2, external environment. Okay. So why does the external environment, that is everything which is outside the organization's span and control, why does it even matter? So actuaries must always consider the external world for giving advice. The factors that we discuss here are not exhaustive, but these factors that we'll be talking about, they require general knowledge, business awareness, and common sense, and must be taken into account, because if you do not give your advice considering the external environment, along with obviously the situation and the interests and preferences of the client, your advice would either be incorrect or incomplete or may not be the best solution, right? So you need to take into account the external environment. And insurance businesses, employee benefits businesses, they don't operate in isolation of the rest of the economy. They are very much an integral part of the economy. They affect the economy and the economy affects them, right? So the overall general economic and social environment, all of these variables, they need to be considered when you are giving advice to your clients, right? And these factors, some of them are purely, related to laws and legal and regulatory frameworks. Others are related to economic factors that are prevailing in the economy. And finally, the last set of them are purely social, right? Because ultimately you are selling insurance to, you're paying claims to members of the society and their realities, their preferences, the other options available to them, the way they think, obviously has to feed into the way you design the products and the way you offer the services that you offer. Okay. So now what are these external environment factors? You have first legislation and regulation. So legislation is the law of the land that is made by the parliament or the Congress of the country, the legislature, and regulations are set by the regulators of that particular industry. So for example, in India, the insurance regulation is set by IRDAI, Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India, right? So you need to take them into account. Then state benefits. Lot of times the state or the government itself provides a certain social welfare schemes for people under a certain income level or under a certain wealth level. So that would effectively compete with your pension products, and that needs to be taken into account. Whether you can sell a pension product in the market or not, or an investment scheme into the market, depends on whether people have existing protection or not against adverse events. When their income falls below a certain level, when their wealth falls below a certain level, do they have existing protections, and how will those protections interact with what we are launching? There's taxation. Many of the insurance and investment products are tax exempted. That changes the preferences for them. There are accounting standards. These are about how you prepare your financial statements. These are various rules that apply towards the preparation of financial statements. There are rules and standard practices which have been established so that books of accounts or financial statements across companies are comparable, so that anyone can read and understand them, right? So the way a particular aspect of the insurance business is represented in the financial statements can actually influence the design of the product. So we'll talk about that. Next is solvency and capital requirements. Basically, what is the amount of statutory reserves you are required to make in order to prove your solvency to the regulator. So these are your rules and norms that you need to comply with. Then you have corporate governance, which is how do you run your organization? That structure, there's a structure established within the country how organizations are run. So insurance companies are usually company form of organizations, right? There you have a board of directors who represent the shareholders who have contributed the capital and taken the risk. Now, these board of directors have a certain responsibilities, and they are responsible for running the companies, and they do it through a bunch of employees and management that they hire. You also have independent directors who provide oversight onto these board of directors so that they are acting in shareholders' interest and not against them, right? For personal reasons. You set the pay structure of the board of directors in a certain way so that their interests and their remuneration is aligned with the shareholders' interest. For example, you can link their remuneration to the stock price, right? So this is how you run a company, and this structure of corporate governance can vary from country to country, right? So how does your corporate governance structure in the country influence your client's corporate structure, the advice that you provide, and the products that you design? Competitive advantage. What is the competitive advantage that your company has, whether it's in terms of the distribution network, whether it's in terms of the financial backing of the company, the experience of the company writing a variety of products or a particular type of product, and what is the competitive advantage in context of the market? So markets usually go through something called as the underwriting cycle, where a business becomes very attractive because there's a lot of profit in it, and then a lot of players enter into it, and then because there is so much competition, the price comes down, which reduces the margins in the market for everyone, and then it gets to the point where it's unprofitable to sell that product and a lot of players exit the market, which means that the price increases again and the market again becomes attractive. Now, this happens across industries, but it's strongly prevalent in the insurance industry. Why? Because insurance is a legacy long-term business, right? It's not a short-term fad sort of a business, right? And there is a variety of unique products, right? Or product categories. So it is a business which sees a lot of churn. It's a very capital intensive business. You need a lot of money to open an insurance company, right? So if it becomes unprofitable, players do exit and companies do fail, right? And thus the insurance business goes through something called as the underwriting cycle. So what stage of the underwriting cycle is a particular segment of the market in influences whether you launch a product or not, whether it is profitable or not. Next is cultural and social trends. Cultural and social trends in the market, whether people are receptive to insurance or not, whether people are health conscious or not, so on and so forth. These things influence the business and your advice. Demographic changes, whether it's an aging population or it's a very young population, would determine the needs of the population. So that that influences our advice and our work. Climate change is a major influence now because of climate change, natural disasters become more prevalent. So there are more catastrophic claims that are large claims, which are correlated with each other because of extreme weather events such as cyclones, floods, etc. You also have pandemics and epidemics coming a lot because of global warming. Viruses are able to spread faster. There's lifestyle, which is how health conscious people are, let's say. Okay, a particular lifestyle where people are healthier generally would increase the longevity, would significantly affect the insurance business and the actuaries' work. International practice. A lot of times, insurers in a particular country or financial services providers in a particular country tend to learn from international experience of a certain products before they launch products, right? So if something works in one country, people or financial institutions in other countries can adopt it. Then there is technological change. So now we know that insurance policies are sold online a lot. So the broker network is not something that you need to fully rely on. There are technologies like telematics where you can track people's driving behavior. right? So a device is installed in your car which tracks how many tickets you are getting, how you are driving, like if one person is driving the car, more than one person is driving, how many times, how you're braking, how you're using the accelerator, are you overspeeding, stuff like that, right? So your entire driving behavior and skill is tracked, and that changes your premium in real time, right? So that's telematics. You can also do a similar thing up with tracking people's health through let's say a smartwatch, right? So you can generate very rich big data through technology which can actually influence your pricing models. Then finally there's corporate structure. So in UK, insurance businesses can either be structured as insurance companies which are owned by shareholders, or as mutual societies that are owned by policyholders. Okay, so you have those two corporate structures, and the corporate structure you follow heavily influences your business as an insurance company, and also influences the kind of products that are introduced, how they are priced, uh, what factors and expenses need to be taken into account into the pricing, so on and so forth, right? So all of these aspects of the external environment heavily influences the insurance business, the financial services business, and the actuary's work and advice. Okay,